Hey y'all, I'm Kelsey Browning, and I am here today with a super fun interview for you with Nancy Naigle, who is a girlfriend of mine that I've known for a long time, but we're going to try not to tell too many inside jokes. And if you don't know Nancy, I'm going to give you a little background on her, and then we'll get started with an interview so that all the folks at Suffolk Mystery Festival can have a gander at this great gal. So, all right, USA Today bestselling author Nancy Naigle whips up small town love stories with a dash of suspense and a whole lot of heart. And I know this for real because I read them. She began her contemporary romance series, Adams Grove, while juggling a successful career as a senior vice president for Bank of America and living on a 76-acre goat farm. Man, I just recently visited some goats. We might need to talk about that. Now enjoying an early retirement from the financial industry, she devotes her time to writing, antiquing, cooking, trail riding on her Palomino, and the occasional spa day with friends. A native of Virginia Beach, she now calls also Virginia home, but not in Virginia Beach.
That's because I was calling North Carolina home.
We're doing this on the fly, y'all.
We are. Nancy, I am back in Virginia. I'm in Patrick Springs, Virginia, just like less than 6 miles from the Blue Ridge Parkway. It's gorgeous here.
I know. I want to come visit. I haven't seen it yet. So Nancy's 2021 release, The Shell Collector, debuted in the top 20 on the ECPA bestseller list. Several of Nancy's books have inspired made-for-television movies, which is so exciting to me. You can watch Christmas Joy, Sand Dollar Cove, and The Secret Ingredient on the Hallmark Channel, and Hope at Christmas on Hallmark Movies and Mysteries. Nancy wrote the novelization for the first 3 Hallmark movies in the popular Christmas and Evergreen series as well. She and I have collaborated on a series that I guess we've called it cozy mystery. We've called it humorous women's fiction. It's just a good time to be had by all, honestly.
Awesome.
And it's called the Seasoned Southern Sleuths Cozy Mystery Series. And you can find more information about that on both of our websites, and we'll make sure and give you all that information later. So yay, Nan, here we are.
Yay.
Yay.
Together again.
It's been a while. I don't even know. Mike, my husband, asked me the other day how long it had been since we'd seen each other I almost said in public, in person.
We didn't see each other behind closed doors that often. Although I do think maybe the last time was at a timeshare in the mountains. Did we get together?
It was in South Carolina.
I think so. Yeah.
All right. So before we get off on our craziness, let's talk about the Mystery Festival a little bit, or we'll just, the horses will get out of the gate and we'll forget at all to talk about why we're actually here.
We'll get the hook, our time will be over. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about why you are not only involved with the Suffolk Mystery Festival this year, but you've been a participant and a supporter of this for several years, many years, all your years.
I don't know if it was all the years, but a lot of years. Yeah. Well, being a Virginia girl, Suffolk, Virginia is right there in the Tidewater area, part of that Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Suffolk, Portsmouth. So it was hometown for me. And I believe the first time I went, I lived in Druryville, I'm pretty sure, in Southampton County. So doing something local at home was so much fun. But the first time I went, I was hooked for good. It is just such a fun festival. I love that there's so many different genres represented. It's all done in such a beautiful way. With the art around us, you just feel really special and a part of something lasting. And they treat us so wonderfully. It's been so fun to get to know more about Suffolk. Remember when, remember the field trip we did to the house? It wasn't the Folly House. What was it?
I think it was the Folly House.
Was it Folly House?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it was called?
I think so.
Remember you were sitting in front of the little fireplace, and they had that little piece of furniture in front of you, and they said, "Did you know what that is for?" And you were like, "No." And they were like, "So your makeup doesn't melt on your face."
And I was like, "What makeup?"
And no, you sat really prim and proper. And you're like, "Well, thank you." And then there were the cemetery walks. We always did so many other things besides just talk and shop, which just makes it a more special event, you know?
I agree. And I have only had the chance to go one time, but apparently I learned how to not melt my makeup and I've forgotten. And I'm not just saying this because you know me, I am truthful to the point of pain, but it is absolutely the best event of its kind I've ever been to, because Katie and her crew do such a they go over and above. It's not just a book signing. It's not just a conference. It's as much for the authors as it is for the readers.
Yes.
And the readers get a great experience. And the authors get to spend a little time with each other and do some fun things. And like you said, they make us feel super special. And y'all, when you work in your pajamas, in your recliner a lot of the time, it feels great. I was going to ask that later.
Yeah, that's where I am.
It feels great to be treated special, right?
Yeah, it does. And, I think the environment of it too is, some of the conferences that we do are so hectic and they're not as well oiled as this one. So you don't really even have time to be with each other, or with the readers. You feel like you're in a hurry to just sign and go. And it's a nice, comfortable, relaxed environment where you can actually get to know somebody and have a moment to chat, not feel rushed. And so, yeah, it's just one of my favorite ones.
So is it all virtual this year, or is it in person and virtual?
It's all virtual.
It's all virtual. And I know so many things are continuing that way. And this is in the year 2022, by the way, if you're watching this far into the future and doing, anthropological research. But so many things are still online right now.
I know. I saw an interesting graph a couple of days ago about when children in school were having real school, and it's like kindergarten, first grade, second grade, they've never been to regular school. So I mean, you just puts things into perspective.
Well, I admit that I'm going to be asking probably my doctors and any attorneys of the future what years they were in law school and medical school.
Oh, that is a great point. Well, thank goodness I was only homeschooling like second grade. So I think Luke's going to be okay.
When you have to get into the calculus and the physics and
that would never have happened. But Luke is an excellent reader. So I had plenty of time to really get that into him. And I will say that his favorite thing about homeschooling was PE.
Well, you can't blame a kid, can you? But I did notice several times, I think, you were logged into a certain Amazon account and I would get emails about what books Luke was getting. I was like, oh, I love that book. I love that book. Nobody's got any secrets.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one thing that, authors love books. We're readers first, we're big readers.
So do you find that you have had much time to read recently, either just during the pandemic or maybe even before that, after becoming a full-time author?
Well, the pandemic didn't really change anything for me, except that I had to do a little homeschooling for, Andrew's son. But for me, I mean, I was working from home anyway, and I rarely got out of my pajamas and rarely leave the house. So things were kind of the same. And, reading is always hard to fit in. I mean, it seems like the more published we become, the less time we have to read. And then I get worried that I don't want to read something that's going to fall into my story somehow. So sometimes it's kind of a careful balance. But I have had more time to read over the past few months. And I've just kind of tried to make it more of a priority, because I did feel like the last couple of years I just have not had the chance to read very many books.
Yeah, it's interesting to me how different so many people's lives were. And mine was different in that my son and my husband were at home. That was the big, I was used to having, this was my whole office, this whole house. So that was a challenge. But I agree. I didn't find writing, I didn't find writing or reading to be easier during this time, even though there might have been more time. I don't know. I know that there's going to be a ton of research on all the things that happened during the pandemic one of these days.
Right.
And I will read it because I have some
But I
predictions.
will say this, for all the books that I've been working on through all of that, I have never made mention of it. In Nan Land, it has not existed, which probably won't surprise you, right?
It totally doesn't. And it's interesting to me that I've seen both in fiction and on TV. And as with other historical events, it'll be interesting. Some people, there'll probably be a whole genre around it,
Yeah,
right? And then
yeah.
some people will choose not to treat that in their fiction. And I don't think that's necessarily bad. And you might want to speak to why in Nan Land you don't do things like that.
Yeah, so in Nan Land, I like everything to always be happy. So, while everybody else is watching the 6 o'clock news and getting the whole story, I just want that midday, news that they've got now that's just focused on the good stuff. It's all for me. Because I just start absorbing all the bad stuff and I worry about it. And I don't want to deal with it. So I don't, which is probably unhealthy, but yeah, it makes me happy.
Well, and what we've both heard from readers many times is that our books are what give them respite from things like the pandemic and whatever is going on the 6 o'clock news, right? That sometimes, and they know that this is fiction, but it just gives them a sense of ease and comfort. And especially with most of your books being set in small towns, how do you think that works into that sort of happy Nan Land situation?
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely the stories I write are being set in small towns. There's a lot more sense of community. And I do try to be sure that all my books are, about those starting over, second chances, finding hope, unexpected friendships, things like that, are important to us to be able to survive. There's a lot going on in this world. It can suck you in and suck you down quick. So if our books can bring just a little bit of joy or remind you that there's hope, that's a big deal. And if I could do that for one person, I'm pretty happy about that.
Exactly. I think of it sometimes like a bit of therapy, and I know it's been that way for me as a reader in the past. It's not like I'm trying to make someone well. I'm just, again, trying to give them that little bit of space.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got shelf to shelves of Jane Ann Krenz, and she got me through so many things, horrible jobs, divorce, you name it. And if it hadn't been for those books, I mean, that even the hardcovers, back then they were only like $8.99.
Inflation.
That's a pretty good deal on therapy. You can't get therapy for that.
Exactly. Well, and I wanted to mention something because we're talking about the small town, sort of versus the large town settings. And we know there's still a bit of fiction and fantasy that not every small town is, super community and cohesive. We also know there's a bit of gossip and some other things that go on. And I say this having grown up in a town the size of a postage stamp, right? One red light. But, we've recently bought a house back in a smaller town in Texas. And it's funny because I've already heard this person is that and who does what and whatever. And so I have to take that with a little grain of salt. However, to your point about community, I know my neighbors in Texas after being there on and off for, a year and a half, better than I know my neighbors at the house where I've lived for 7 years.
Yeah, it's just a whole different environment. And, even moving here to Patrick Springs, we bought this house in March, and I already, know neighbors, have neighbors that have been here to help me through crisis. And, it's pretty nice. It's like a warm hug. It's nice to know that, the people across the way are there if I need them.
Exactly.
And I'm there for them.
Yeah. So y'all, I mean, some of these wonderful things are not complete fiction. They're not completely dead. I can attest to that. And obviously Nan can too. So.
And we make them, I think too, there's a reminder there, it's like, make the change you want in the world. And people, I think it might be on my banner right now. I think people don't take it seriously or really take it that next step, because we are the change. I mean, your one good thing for your neighbor is going to propel that to happen somewhere else. So we can affect good things around us.
I think a lot of times for many of us, and it'll be interesting to see what people have to say about this, but we feel like we don't have time to know our neighbors or to do things for them. And that's, the older that I get, the sadder that makes me. Mm-hmm. And so even in some times when I've been in crisis mode, if somebody needs something, I try to go do it for those neighbors, because it helps heal me a little bit too. Because I'm like, well, this was a real, whatter of a day, but hey, I get 1 point. Should get a dime for every time I don't say a cuss word. But I go do something nice for somebody else, and it makes my day better.
Yeah, absolutely does. Yeah, I got a little text this morning from some friends that live in Dillon, Virginia, which is a couple hours away, but they were coming to the Rural King in Martinsville. And they were like, hey, you want to get together for lunch? And I was like, oh, yeah, I take my mom to the doctor, and he'd take stuff to Goodwill. I got this to do. I got to get some words in. And I was like, no. Yeah, I would love to meet you for lunch. And so I made the time to do it. And I'm so glad I did. I mean, it was fun. And I am sure that I'll get twice as much done tonight, probably twice as many words in, just because of that feeling inside. We gotta feed the beast. And I don't just mean the good Mexican food we ate.
Well, I'm not even, you know what, I'm not going to touch that. I'm just not. But I will say too, and going back to Texas, which is, Nancy knows, that's where my family is originally from. And it's been a couple of weeks now, but my sister texted me at noon and said, hey, do you want to come and eat dinner and play Pictionary? Well, she lives an hour and a half away, but I was like, sure. And so it was amazing to be able to do that sort of on the spur of the moment, like you're talking about. And that is something that is so important to writers. Mm-hmm. And readers always ask where our ideas come from. I don't know that they necessarily come from Pictionary, although if I were going to write a super competitive person, my sister would definitely.
Yeah.
But it does refuel you, right?
Yeah. When people ask me where I get my ideas, I always say I'm living my life. If you stayed holed up like that hermit, the old hermit that wrote the stories in the cabins, like, I don't know who those guys were. But I would never have any ideas, because you can only write so many squirrels finding nuts in the forest, right? But you go out and, go to somewhere new, or even just, go to Walmart, you're going to get a story. But yeah, just, living life, seeing new things, exploring. And I think, I was telling somebody just yesterday, I was born and raised in Virginia. I grew up on the beach, and, where the land is totally flat. Well, now I'm in Patrick Springs. I'm in Patrick County, which is out near the mountains, and it's mountainy and hilly. And so it's like a whole new thing for me. Like, I can't drive to church by myself because the curves go around Lover's Leap, and it's just really scary. But I'm sure I'll learn it eventually. But there are things, I'll be 60 this year, and there are things about Virginia that I'm just now learning. So right, not far from here is Fairy Stone Park. And there is a place where you can find these naturally made crosses, fairy stones that are supposed to be good luck. But they're 4 different styles, and they look like crosses. And yeah, that has just inspired a whole big part of this new story that I'm working on. It's just amazing the things that turn up.
Yeah, I can tell y'all that Nancy could find a bubblegum wrapper on the corner of the street and have a whole story written about that bubblegum around from that bubblegum wrapper. It's very impressive.
So Kelsey and I, wrote all those Southern seasoned sleuth books together, and we used to call them the grannies, if y'all had heard of those. And she would always tease me because she said I could get lost wandering in a field of flowers more than anybody, because I can't write up a storm about that pretty field of flowers.
Well, and that's kind of a good segue for us to talk for a minute about the seasoned Southern sleuths. And y'all, I admit that is alliteration to end all alliterations, but it tells you exactly what you're getting.
It does.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because we started those books a number of years ago, but still get really great responses from people. And maybe, yeah, so you want to talk a little bit about the collaboration, because that's something that people are always interested in. And then I'll jump in a little as well.
Yeah, well, and it kind of is a good lead in too, because we're talking about inspiration for stories and all. And, Kelsey and I were doing an event. I think it was the Romantic Times event.
Yes.
Yeah. And was it in Chicago? I think
it was. You have a good memory, girl.
I know, this is good, because I have a good memory. And we were doing this event there, and we barely knew each other. I think it was the first time we'd ever even like shared a hotel room, and we were up all night and talking. And can I tell this story?
Sure.
Okay, so she's telling me all about this horrible ex-husband her sister had, and how they were teasing about, well, one of them should knock him off and get rid of him. And then her mom says, well, I should do it, because then I can get 3 square meals and health care for free. And Kelsey's like, well, that's good, because I've got a son to raise and I look horrible in orange.
Orange is not the new black on me. I want to put
a disclaimer out that the ex-husband is still alive and well somewhere with probably some tramp or something, who knows. But so nothing happened. But the following morning, we woke up with this inspiration of, we have got to write this story about these older women, because now they're like younger than me. And one of them is going to go to prison camp.
Okay, so I'm gonna clarify here, because I want y'all to realize sometimes Nan and I have asked ourselves why we worked so well together. And it's because Nan can get an idea quickly. She can get super excited about something. And I am easily enticed to do something new. I had no intention of writing a mystery series about older ladies, but yeah.
Yeah, and I was writing super sweet. Kelsey was writing super sexy. And so in the middle, this mystery series happens. It was like, well, how did these two paths even cross to begin with? But it worked so well. I mean, just so well. The characters are amazing. I still love them to this day. And, they're Southern, they're over 50, they're just a little reckless.
Not like us at all.
Oh, I do not have a bedazzled hammer holder.
That's what I was going to get you for Christmas.
But you do have red boots. It's like Abby Ruth.
So yeah, this little lineup of characters, we knew we were going to start with a character from Virginia, one from Texas. I was living in California at the time we started this whole brainstorming thing. So one from California, and we were like, okay, where can we meet in the middle between Virginia and Texas? And we settled on Georgia. Yes. And that was before we knew that I was about to move to Georgia. Yes. We had no idea, right?
Yes, no, yeah, total fluke.
So I think the other thing is, you talked about, that I said you could describe a field of daisies. Thank God we don't live in Charles Dickens times anymore, because they'd let you get away with that.
That's right.
But what's great there is you've always been so good at the description in these books. So yeah, let's talk a little bit. And I'm going to let you jump off and talk about, you're great at description and some other things. And then the way these, our skills sort of mesh just happen to work, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think I love doing the descriptions and getting you into the community. And, and so for example, though, instead of getting able to write about the pretty field of flowers, one of the scenes in early books was, the septic tank being a problem. And so they are trying to hide the problem that the septic tank overfloweth. And so they end up parking Serendipity, who is our California flower child grandma, Serendipity's Volkswagen van over top of the septic that's bubbled up, right? And so, yeah, some of the things that I got to describe were not as flowery and beautiful, but they absolutely were fun, right? I mean, because
Oh,
they,
that's one
I
of my
think we had
favorites
bales of
still.
straw and all kinds of stuff in there, and it was a challenge. But on the other hand, I was the stuff that I was kind of good at. But I tell you guys, Kelsey is got she is so witty and quick with a turn of phrase, and it really brought these girls to life. And Abby Ruth, Texan girl, like somebody else I know and love, is tough, and she just assumed shoot something before ask a question, but we did let her ask questions.
Well, and I always tell people if there's any, somewhat blue language in those books, it all definitely came from me. But, what you also realize is that you have to write the characters as the characters are.
Yes.
And so sometimes that doesn't necessarily reflect you as a person, right? Your characters may even have different views on things.
Exactly. And I think sometimes readers forget that, and they kind of come down on us about the ways somebody reacted or responded. And it's not us, it's the characters. And I think some of those, fun things that some of these gals spit out at the craziest times are what make them so three-dimensional. Those four gals are totally different. We've got the hippie flower child, and we've got, this do-it-yourselfer. We've got Miss Lillian, who is very, formal, and then we've got Abby Ruth, just balls to the wall Texan. I said that. Okay.
Like basketballs to the wall,
Yeah,
because she was a sports
Yeah,
reporter.
exactly. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, and I think the interesting thing is that it is sometimes those very different kind of people that end up making the best friends, and I think it inspires innovation, and it opens up our minds to lots of other things. So
yeah, exactly. And it was funny you talking about the septic, the bubbling septic scene, is that so Pam Dougherty, who is our narrator for the audio for the series, so over this past year or so, she's recorded 3 more for us. So collard greens and catfishing, which is that one, I think. Sometimes I get confused myself. And then Christmas cookies and a confession, and deviled eggs and deception. So we have 3 of the full length and 1 of the novellas recording on audio now. And just anybody watching this, when will this come out? Oof.
March.
Yeah. Katie may have to pull.
And In for a Penny is the first one in the series.
Right.
And that one's been in audio all along. And I mean, she does do a great job. She brings that stuff to life. And, a great narrator in an audiobook, I mean, it's just priceless,
Well, my cousin is a big audiobook reader, listener, and she tells me, she said, they make or break the book. The book may be good, even if you've read it before, but if the narrator's not a great narrator, you put it down as an audio book listener, lover, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay. So I'm going to ask you, hang on a second, y'all. Before I forget, if you're interested in that mystery series, the URL, the address is gteamseries.com. Still, that has not changed at this point. So G as in just a G. And okay, so I know we could spend all day talking about that, but we have other fish that we need to fry. Speaking of catfish. So, and we won't spend a ton of time on this, but I know readers and writers like a little insight. And we've talked about how you get some ideas, but give us a couple of things on your writing process, maybe what you find the easiest, and then something that you find to be a real challenge in the process.
Well, I'll start with the biggest challenge. I think the biggest challenge is the synopsis. I hate writing synopsis. So what I do now is try to write the synopsis before I write the book. It's way easier because you don't find yourself in the weeds because you don't know where the weeds are yet. Because no matter how big you plot, there's little pieces of the story that can drag you down. When you're trying to write the synopsis, they are there. So so I always try to write my synopsis first and then just tweak it after I've got the book done with what changes there are. And so that has made it much more simple. But that's the hardest part. I hate doing that. My favorite part is the editing. I love when I get my edits back, when I get my developmental edits back and I've got to move some things around. Every time without fail, I get to a point where I know that I've torn my book apart in too many places that it will never, ever go back together. But it always does, and it's always better. But yeah, I just love that part because by then, I really know the characters. I've already gotten the first draft done, so I know how they think, what their backstory is. That first time when I'm writing that first draft, I'm still figuring a lot of that out. And sometimes I find stuff out at the last chapter, and by then I am just too damn tired of that book to go back and fix it.
I totally get that. Yeah, we've done some ripping apart at times, and I'm like, oh. And I think people, and just for people who don't know what a developmental edit is, that's when you get a manuscript back, and this is not like the little grammar and spelling and commas. Nan's never met a comma that she didn't love. The developmental edits are when you're still at that big story level. So if you've got a problem with your character or a plot problem, something bigger. So a lot of people think that editing is just that little stuff. Yeah. And gosh, by the time you get there, we're all like, yoo-hoo.
That's right. That's right. Well, and I will say, and I should say that final proof, the very last time you get to read the book, that is hard because you know it by heart, and being able to catch anything at that point is really, really hard. Yeah.
Some people tell you to read it backward. I'm sorry. That is just not even possible in my world. So.
Yeah, mine either.
Doesn't make any sense that way, people. So this is something that we do a lot too and are asked to do, and that is giving advice, right? Giving advice to newer writers, but I'm also interested to hear you give some advice to readers.
Oh, wow. Advice to readers. I think you need to, and I'm not even sure how to tell you to do this, but I was going to say, as a reader, one thing that I do is kind of always go back to my auto buys. Always, I've got my favorites and I auto click them and I do it months in advance. So it's like a surprise when they show up in the mail because I've totally forgotten they've got a book coming out. But some of the best books I've read are new authors coming on the scene. So, not that I don't want you to read my stuff. I want you to read mine too, but I can't write enough to keep you reading all year. But yeah, I think you need to keep your eye on what some of the new people are writing and looking for those. So, the classics are great. The ones you love are kind of yours going back home place. But, find that manicure with the rhinestones on it and some new author that's out there. And like the Mystery Festival is a good place too. You'll bump into new people that you've never read before. So a great way to get out of kind of your comfort zone and explore and experiment with some new things.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that, Nan, because you'll meet someone, meet an author at one of these events, and their personality just kind of catches you, right? And so you think, well, if I like them that much, maybe I'll like their books, because we all, although we are not the characters, just like we mentioned before, some of us is in every book to some extent.
Yeah, that's your voice. That's what you bring to the party. Like we can all write the book. Anybody can write a book, but it's your voice that comes out in the story that kind of carries people through the tale. Yeah.
Exactly. So if if an editor were to hand Nan an outline and hand me an outline, well, there'd probably be a lot of dogs in both of them.
Yes. A lot of dogs, a lot of food.
Nan's will be super nice, and there'll be a lot of daffodils, and mine would probably have some cuss words. So that's the point that Nan is saying. And some people will say there's no new story in the world, but there is a new story because it's your story as a writer.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you could, give one piece of advice to a newer writer, what would it be?
Oh, that's easy. Be authentic to yourself. Don't chase a trend. Be careful of what advice you're getting from everywhere. I mean, you're going to want everybody to tell you what to do, because everybody wants that silver bullet to get published, and there is no silver bullet, and 99% of it is luck, I think, or tenacity. Just don't give up. But be true to your story. And people can feel it, sense it, get it. And when you write a book from your heart, they know.
Right.
Those are the books that stick around.
That's good. That's great. Because a lot of times when you're new, you are looking like for how to do it. Like somebody else has the whole thing worked out, and they don't. They have their process worked out. Excuse me. I think it's allergy season. Okay, Nan. So let's, I'm going to ask you if there's anything that you want to talk about, not about 2022, because we're going to get to that. We're going to get to your releases, but anything else that you want to chat about before we go into speed round.
I just want to mention the Shell Collector.
Okay, great. Yeah.
So here's the cover. The Shell Collector, it came out last year. This is absolutely the book of my heart. I love this story so much. And it came out of, a lot of growth and healing for me, after the loss of my husband and my cousin. And it was born from a story that was a true story of a family member that lived out on the Outer Banks who found a shell that had a scripture written in it. And that story played in my mind for so long about what if I found, a shell with something written in it, especially at that time in my life when I was struggling so much. And as a side, Kelsey, you were such a huge, huge part of that healing. And I still have my treasure chest of little notes from readers and other author friends that y'all collected for me, and hand rolled every single one. And to me, those are like those precious shells, in this story. And if I have one hope for this story, it's that, everybody gets a chance to read it, and that somewhere Maeve and those special thoughts in this book will stay in the back of your mind. And when you faced with that kind of reality, that you'll be able to go through it a little more gracefully and feel hope.
Sometimes just not so alone, because everybody's going to have some different times that they're feeling alone and they're feeling grief.
Yeah. And it's the hardest thing to go through. And, the funny thing is everybody's going to go through it, and so many people have, but it's different for everybody. So they're, just like getting published, there's no one answer. But I do have some just breaking news, and I haven't announced it anywhere yet. Stay waiting to do it with Kelsey. But Fox has optioned the Shell Collector. So don't know when it'll be casted or when the screenplay will be done. I will keep everybody posted, but you're hearing it here first, that it has been optioned.
And y'all, that is so super exciting. That's super exciting.
And there's one other cool thing about this book. We were talking about the narrators. So if anybody who has seen the movie The Secret Ingredient, that was based on my novel that was on Hallmark, and it's playing right now, February, March, because it's a Valentine's movie. Erin Cahill, who is from Virginia, so she's got my accent, that's good. She was in that movie. Well, she is the narrator for the audiobook. And I love it, because I can't tell you how many of my audiobooks have that sexy, like Gone with the Wind Southern, that breathy Southern. Man, we don't talk like that. So Erin did a great job. It is a beautiful narration. It's the only one I can actually listen to like all the way through. So and she's just a really neat lady.
That's great. Yeah. Again, the narrator, and it's not even that sometimes the narrators are not good on the books. It's just that maybe that's not what we heard in our ear when we were writing. And I find the same thing, that you can't listen to them. And again, it's not that it's not a good book. It is, but it's just, your ear kind of goes. So she says pecan, huh? All right. Well, I'll forgive her for that.
We shall never agree.
We shall agree to disagree on that particular nut.
Yes.
No, that's amazing. That's such amazing news. Congratulations. Had I known, I would have put the confetti balloons up.
I know. Absolutely.
Okay, I don't really have any confetti balloons. My house probably looks like it should have confetti balloons right now. But but one thing also for the readers and those people who watch your Hallmark movies to know is that, yes, getting something made into a movie or TV show, it takes time because there are other people involved. Option is fabulous, but there's a lot more between option and when that thing comes out.
Yeah, and tons of them get optioned and never made. So, I mean, that could happen too. But it is the first scripted movie that Fox has purchased. So they've bought lots of movies that air on their channels, but they've never made a movie. So this will be their first.
Really?
Yeah.
So you don't know who the script writer is going to be yet?
Not yet.
Oh, very interesting. I'm excited to hear more about that.
Yeah.
So that's very cool. And so, yeah, we'll have to talk more about that because I know you only know so much about it right now, but that's super exciting.
Yeah.
I feel like I know a famous person.
You don't.
I don't know a famous person. I know we laugh sometimes because people will say, oh, big readers, authors are, my rock stars. And we think, have you seen us on a Tuesday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon?
No.
So crazy. All right. So I'm thinking speed round, this or that, and some other things. You just never know. And then I want to talk about 2022 because you have some cool, wonderful stuff doing in 2022. Does that sound good?
That sounds great.
All right. Okay. And I'm going to have to look down, y'all, because I have a list of 1 billion of these. And so there are some of them I wouldn't even ask because I'm like, oh, I know that.
Oh no, you're going to ask me something you don't know?
Yeah, well, I'm going to try to go easy on you at first. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
See, I knew that one, of course. Words or actions? I know.
Probably words is why I'm always in trouble in my life. I need to be looking for the actions that go with those words.
That's good.
That is definitely a lesson in that question.
I didn't mean for all of them to be a lesson. Now here's kind of an easy one: chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate,
of course. Yeah, some of these are fun. I found some of them on the internet, y'all, because I'm not, not as my mom would say, I'm not swift enough. That's a Texas accent for you, also meaning swift. I'm not smart enough. Underestimated or overestimated?
Overestimated.
Okay. All right. And you can take that however you want. Could mean money, could be.
How do you mean? But
I don't know.
I don't get to ask questions. Yeah. But I'm always looking to the positive. So I'm thinking it's like
so she'll overestimate.
Yeah, it's always been great. You'll be like, Nancy, we don't want to go mud bogging. We don't. And catch frogs, it's not going to be fun. I'll be like, oh, it's going to be great.
I have to admit, I grew up in the muddy Northeast Texas. I mean, red clay, and gigging frogs is just something that I could never do. Once you've seen a frog gigger, you cannot then do the gigging. You cannot unsee that gigging. Here's a good one for a romance / mystery author: passion or stability?
Passion.
I knew that one. Ooh, I love this one. Time machine or magic wand?
Oh, I'm going with the magic wand because I'm riding that time machine. It's going to need like an oil change and some fuel. I'd probably get stuck in like some terrible era and not be able to get back just because I didn't have a full tank of gas.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is something that applies to everybody these days. Zoom or in person?
In person.
Yeah, I'm split on that, because you can, and I mean, raise your hand, Nan, if you've done this, that you've been on a Zoom meeting and had something on top, had business on the top and party on the bottom, that you were wearing your pajama bottoms.
I have jeans on today, I promise. But I did think about changing back into my The only reason I have jeans on is because I went on that lunch day.
I have yoga pants on, so they don't have anything on them, but they also don't necessarily match my top. Store-bought or homemade?
Homemade.
Knew that one too. Sorry, y'all, I am asking questions, I know, but I think this is interesting. Like a lot of times we as authors talk about some of the same things over and over again. I'm like, let's do something fun.
Yeah.
I like this one. Roller coaster or water slide?
Neither. I don't swim, so not water sliding. And I'm scared to death of heights, so I'd be okay going up the roller coaster, but when I'm at the top, I'm just gonna, I'd be terrified. In fact, the one time that I went on the roller coaster was the Rebel Yell at King's Dominion. And back then, that was the biggest one. And they ended up having to take me to the little infirmary when I got off of it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to laugh at that.
I didn't get sick, but boy, I felt like I was having a heart attack. Yeah.
So what you're getting here is kind of the interesting inside trivia, the fact that Nan doesn't swim. And I know that, but I had forgotten. And I knew you were going to say neither.
And I grew up at the beach. Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
It is nutty. I totally am for the water slides. Protagonist or sidekick?
Sidekick.
Oh, we must know more about this.
What's more to tell?
I don't know. Why sidekick?
Because I just think, I'm thinking of, I don't know why. I mean,
every
like
Batman's got his Robin.
Because it's always more fun with someone else, I mean.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I just wanted a little more detail there.
Yeah.
A little more detail.
Sidekick.
Salad or sandwich?
Sandwich.
White bread with a ripe tomato and some mayonnaise on it.
Yes. And right now it's grilled cheese season.
Yum. And you knew that y'all knew, if you know Nan at all, you know me at all, that there were going to be some food questions, because we cannot write a book together that doesn't have just a ton of food in it. I think
we've written books apart without food in them.
Exactly. French fries or onion rings?
Ooh, well, that just depends on where the onion rings are coming from. Because onion rings can be bad.
Or they can be amazing.
Yes,
right?
Yes. Good onion rings. Yeah.
Vacation or staycation?
Vacation.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Night or morning?
Night. Because my mornings don't start till after 9. I can't believe you even asked that with a straight face.
Well, I know. Well, it's not just for me, right? That's what I was saying. I know some of these things. So y'all,
so here's some inside secret. When Kelsey and I would get together to write, we did a lot of writing separate, through Scrivener and dropping things in on files and stuff. But when we would get together, when I would roll out of bed and get out there, she will have already been drawing pictures on the walls, and she'd have her little blanket all tied around her and just pacing around. And oh yeah, she'd have half the world organized before I ever rolled out of bed.
Yeah, and Nan was super sweet to actually write earlier with me, because I am incapable of writing after about 6 o'clock at night. It's just I can't do it. So she was super sweet.
Best writing after midnight or after 11. I like it when the world gets quiet, when everything kind of stops. It feels like I'm alone. I like it.
Well, and this is a good example of how your process can never be the same as another writer's process, because there's just so much that goes into it. Yeah. So people will say, hey, get up at 4 o'clock and write. That would be the worst advice Nan could have ever been given.
Yeah. I wouldn't be able to get an email out.
All right. I got just a few more, and I want to pick the best ones here. Ooh, some good ones. Guacamole or salsa?
Oh, that's so hard. I like salsa in the guacamole. Okay, I'm gonna say salsa.
I think that was cheating, but I like it. That
Yeah,
totally
it's really
works.
good.
Test the waters or dive in the deep end. And I don't think we're talking metaphorically, because we know that you're not going to do either one of
Well,
those things in the
I
real
would,
world.
yeah. So if it's metaphorically, I dive in the deep end. I'm never afraid to make a mistake. I know I can reroute, retry. Yeah, I'm fine going for it.
Yep, I knew that was going to be the way of it. But yeah, since we had talked about the water, I was like, okay, gotta crunchy or smooth peanut butter.
You know, I used to always be a crunchy peanut butter girl. And then when I got married, my husband only liked smooth. Mr. Mike only ate smooth Jif peanut butter. And, I've never gone back to crunchy now that you mention it. I may go buy some crunchy peanut butter tonight.
Send me do a snap of your sandwich.
Yeah, I might have to do that. It's kind of like, what was the Runaway Bride, where when Richard Gere's asking her what kind of eggs she liked, and it was whatever kind of eggs her husband or boyfriend or fiance liked, and she didn't even know what kind of eggs she liked. Yeah, I guess I just never went back to the crunchy. I always used to love crunchy peanut butter.
Yeah.
What do you
Refine
like?
yourself. Refine your love for the
Yeah, I
crunchy.
wanna refine my inner Jif.
All right, couple more here. Let's see. Sauce on top or sauce on the side. This is critically important information.
On top.
Oh,
You're
no.
never enough.
No, on the side. You know me. I like to have
That's why
ratio
you got that tiny yoga pant body.
like to have ratio
Heavy
management.
sauce on the side. I'm like, just smother it on there. Yeah, I want it on the taters too.
Saying I don't want a lot of it, but I want to portion it out.
Okay.
All right, this one cracks me up. Zombies or vampires?
Neither. I'll have to take the vampires to the dentist. Then I can have the vampires, because they're probably tall, dark, and handsome. But yeah, no, and definitely not zombies. No.
Yeah, no.
Zombies and vampires are not in Manland.
I've been trying to figure out how to write a zombie romance. They're not inherently sexy though. So
no, you like rub your hand across their ear and it comes off in your you stick it back on.
Well, and if you're human, the whole intimacy thing gets sort of, the mood gets ruined when they try to eat your brain. So
yeah, I'm saying no on that. Not a genre I'm gonna try. I'm not chasing that trend with you, Kelsey.
Oh, I'm not chasing a trend. Have I written any vampires? I don't even know. I don't think I have. I've written shapeshifters, but one thing I was going to mention that this made me think of is when you were talking about finding new authors, right? Or finding authors that you haven't read before. And that one thing you can do, and this is not perfect, y'all, and some of you are super savvy and you already know this, but you could go to Nancy's page on Amazon, not just one of her book pages, but her author page. And there on the left-hand side, you're going to see a list of other authors that other people have bought, who have also bought Nancy's books. And sometimes that will give you an idea of some people that perhaps you've not read before.
Yeah, it's great. Yes, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's a great place to start. Yeah, thanks.
So especially for people who write, like Nancy's last few books have been certain types of books. Mine, it would do you no good because there are all kinds of people in my also bots, but yeah. All right, so here we are. Everybody's been hoping that 2022 is going to be, I don't know, the year of being better. We don't have any guarantee of that, but I think we have a guarantee of some better, I don't want to say better stuff from you because that sounds like there was bad stuff from you, but you have good news. So give us the good news about 2022.
I have a couple awesome books coming out this year. I'm really excited about them. The first will be out on May 3rd, and it's called What Remains True. If you read Christmas Angels a couple years ago, it was set in the lovely mountain town of Antler Creek. I'm going back to Antler Creek, and I had so much fun going back to that town. And it's got this great small town shop that has wonderful fine linens and stuff. So I've been having so much fun buying giveaway stuff. that goes with that. And there's a lot of stuff about barn quilts in that story. So I've been doing a lot of barn quilt classes, and I have some little kits. It's going to be a fun release. So What Remains True will be out with Waterbrook Press in May. And then the cover reveal just happened a few weeks ago. The Wedding Ranch will be out with St. Martin's Press December 6th. Now, the funny thing is, it is a December book. It is not a Christmas story at all. And it isn't even actually a wedding story. It's just got this wedding ranch, which is a venue. And two people meet by chance and are kept together by hope. And it's a really, really neat story about, forgiveness and trust. So I think people will enjoy it. It's got some good fun stuff in the cover. Oh my gosh, y'all go out and Google that cover right now. Actually, both covers are absolutely beautiful. So I got super lucky on that.
And that's great, because that really, that's what people pick up the book for before they know you, right?
Right. Well, and especially with the Wedding Ranch, it's got this kind of great, kind of fresh turquoisey. It's not really Tiffany blue. It's a little more turquoisey than that. But it's got this great, lush, colorful cover that in the midst of all the Christmas releases in December, with all the reds and the greens and the golds and the silvers, I think it's really going to stand out and be fresh. So I hope it'll get some good attention, even though it's kind of a strange season for that kind of book to come out.
Well, and we don't always have complete control, but I like that idea that it's going to look a little different and be eye-catching. So
it's really pretty.
Well,
and
that
What Remains
is
True,
exciting.
if anybody's a NetGalley reviewer, What Remains True is up on NetGalley now. So you can go and request it, get it early.
That is such a great title. I love that title.
Thank you. It was originally called Sweater Weather. And then they said, oh, we're not going to release that in the fall after all. And I was like, okay. And so I had to take everything fall out of it. It was all this leaves and autumn. And you know me, rolling in those leaves, man. It was trailing around in the autumn foliage. Had to rip all that apart and change it. And so now it's not a fall book. And it is What Remains True.
Well, What Remains True is the story itself, but I love hearing that, because I think it's so interesting for readers to know that I used to have this idea that a book was written by someone from beginning to end. Like it just doesn't work that way, y'all. Things change and we have to take things in and out. And of course, when Nan said rolling in the leaves, which I think is a fun thing, but then I just started itching, I'm like, when you're from bug country, but that's the thing, y'all. These books go through so many iterations, right? That how it started out, I think y'all might have just seen my dog going by. That it doesn't work that way. We don't write from beginning to end, and it's perfect when we write it by any means. Things change.
Yeah, and things I'm working on now aren't coming out till 23 and 24. So yeah, they've been done a long time.
Yeah. So Nan, tell everybody where they can find you, because definitely we want them to know where to find more information on your books, which social media platforms you're on.
Yeah. Well, NancyNaigle.com, Naigle, Naigle, is the place to always go. And having been kicked off Facebook for 10 weeks last year, I try not to make social media my main stop anymore, but I am on Facebook and I am on Instagram and Twitter, and Pinterest has a board for every one of my books out there. So you can find me just about everywhere, but NancyNaigle.com has all the book information. You can even shop for autographed books there and all my events. And I've got several this year.
Great. And make sure, if you want to know about all of Nan's releases and all of her events, don't just go out to the website. Be sure that you sign up for her emails, because as with most authors, that's where you're going to find, we tell people their things first, and that's where you're going to get all the info.
Yeah. And all the backs trivia too. Yeah. Thank you.
Exactly. And I will tell you that if you want news about, say, the audiobooks for the seasoned Southern Sleuth, sometimes we send that through Nan's, and sometimes that goes through my email list. So if you're wanting to hear about those audiobooks or what's going on with that series, you can always go to my site at kelseybrowning.com and sign up for those updates as well. And anything else, Nan, before we wrap this wonderful interview up.
A great big thank you to you.
I curled my hair for you, girl.
I know, you look beautiful. I love spending time with you, and I'm so glad that we got to spend time with everybody for the Suffolk Mystery Authors Festival together.
I know, it's fun. It's like, we haven't done any of our road trip kind of stuff in a long time, or our little free library stuff. So this is, we're not in the car. I guess we should have done we should have pretended that we were doing like car karaoke. We could have,
That would have been so fun. Okay.
Maybe
we'll
next
set that
time.
up for later in the year. Sign up for the newsletter. We'll let you know when it's going to happen.
Exactly. So, all right, ma'am. Well, thanks for taking this time. Had such a fun time. And thank you to Katie Kelly and all the folks at the Suffolk Mystery Author Festival. I think maybe I got it all right. Bye, Nan.
Bye. Thanks, y'all.